All right. So welcome so much. I'm so excited to have you both here. Today I have Richard Snelson and Mary Growe, who are candidates for mayor this year. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
So in the past, the library has participated in bringing these informational sessions to the public. And 2 years ago, about this time, we were sitting down with 3 mayoral candidates to do a town hall. And so this year I was a little skeptical with the COVID numbers, and in fact am currently recovering from COVID myself. So I'm glad we did not do an in-person event where I would have been the super spreader. But instead we are doing this, we're sitting down and we're recording, and we're doing it a little different. It's not going to be that comparative town hall format. We're going to do a little more introductory format. And due to that, so we invited all 3 candidates for mayor this year. And Jeff who is the current mayor, had said that he'd like to let the work that he's been doing speak for itself and really just provide this opportunity for the 2 candidates who are against the incumbent to introduce themselves. And he would participate if we did a more comparative candidate town hall come March. And the library is intending to reintroduce some in-person programs in March. So hopefully, if there are 2 people still on the ballot at that time, then we'll move toward a town. Well, there will be 2, but whatever 2, hopefully they'll agree to doing a town hall at that time in person. So I just wanted to explain that. And once again, I thank you both for being here. And I'm going to start with introductions. And Mary, I'm going to have you go first.
Okay. My name is Mary Growe, Growe. I've been in town here for over 40 years. We initially came to town for employment, and we stayed because we love the community. We have 4 children. 2 of them were born here and raised. All 4 of them have graduated from New Holstein High School. While we had some in high school, one of our daughters did an exchange program to the Czech Republic. And I thought if there was a family kind enough to open their home for her, we could do the same here. And we then had a student from Japan, and we enjoyed it so much. We then had a student from Greece, and we enjoyed it so much. We then had a student from Mexico. By that time, our kids were kind of getting ready to all graduate themselves. Following that, we did foster teen boys with the intent that they would be very hard to adopt out, and we wanted to provide a long-term stable home for them until they reached the age of majority. Then we kind of outgrew our big old house and moved to a smaller home. We now run the big home as a Airbnb hospitality. We have belonged to Holy Rosary, and I was very active there as a lector. I was on the parish, athletic committees, on the liturgy committee. I coached volleyball, helped set up a program there for the 5th through 8th graders, and coached there for, well, till my kids graduated. What else? Organizations. Junior Women's Club, I belonged to for a number of years. I was a secretary there. Very familiar with Robert's Rule of Order, very familiar with minutes and the necessity of minutes, that if you're not able to be at a meeting, you can read the minutes and know exactly what happened and how it happened. What else? Family church connections. Anything else?
I think you covered you had a lot of things there. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. That's funny. You mentioned a lot of things. I will have to talk later. We have a lot in common. All right. So thank you for your introduction. And then Rich, I'll have you introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Rich Snelson. I'm running for the office of mayor. I've been in New Holstein or the surrounding area for most of my life. My wife, Robin, and I currently live on Monroe Street. I'm an active participant throughout the community, as it gives me great pleasure to be around good people that do positive things. Some of my volunteering includes, but not limited to, being an active member in the FFA alumni, where I serve as treasurer, New Holstein Lions Club, Adopt a Highway, tornado cleanup, building ramps for the handicapped, feed a farmer and transporting donor organs. I have willingly assisted with other various fundraisers in the community that incorporate airport days, brat fries, and the toy farm show. I am also a member of the Outdoor Sportsman's Club. I have joined the Knights of Columbus, in addition to having been working with the Ironworkers Local 8 for 22 years.
Excellent, thank you so much. I love hearing from both candidates that level of involvement in your communities, so that's very exciting. And then I'm going to jump into the questions, and I'm just going to go back and forth on who goes first. And so, Rich, this question is for you first. What made you interested in running for mayor?
The mayor is responsible for writing the agendas, appointing people, and general direction of the city. Being on the council for 2 years, I have been to all the meetings physically and virtually, including the ones in closed session, wanting to follow through with what the people want. One of the biggest issues we are facing in the Holstein is that we need to bring back industry to our community. The surrounding communities are building and we need to grow with them. When I am out in the community, I witness how people and elected officials work to come to an agreement. I believe it is important to reach out and network with the residents and potential businesses to establish a strong relationship. We are looking for good community outreach, and it is my promise to you that I will bridge that gap. If elected, my job as your mayor would be to represent you. The mayor title is like a tool. Having the title makes outreach easier because the mayor is the top dog and businesses will take you seriously when you reach out to them. Construction is what I do for a living. Networking and outreach, I feel, is something in my wheelhouse.
Great, thank you. Mary, same question to you. What made you interested in running for mayor?
Well, having worked with the city council in the past, I have learned that in order to get on the agenda, I have to go to the city administrator. And I respect and honor that we do have a city administrator who acts as a treasurer and clerk. So she has a great deal of responsibility in managing a lot of the workings of the city. But I also recognize the mayor as a unifying the citizens together with the city council, with the administrator, and be able to work together as an entity instead of having infighting and division. So my goal is to, as mayor, is to continue to listen to the citizens. I have been going to city council meetings, and the biggest thing that I felt was division. And I just don't see where you can get anywhere with division. So my goal is to help with unifying the city, bringing in the citizens, getting them involved, whether that be just coming to meetings or getting the meetings live streamed, which is one of my goals, because the minutes are hard to glean information from, and the agendas are even harder. So I think if we want our citizens to be involved and active and creative, we also need to include them in the information process.
Great, thank you. I'm going to ask about that later. So, all right. So, Mary, then this question comes to you first. What skills and assets would you bring to our local government?
I have the ability to organize, and I have the, excuse me, Mark, can you? I have the ability to organize. I have the ability to reach out and listen to people. I am noted for being a good listener. I am noted for being a good inviter. And one of the things I did was I started a food and fellowship at Holy Rosary, which was open to the whole community. I cooked the meal, brought it in, served it, blah, blah, blah. But my whole intent was to invite, and that's what and to include, and that's what the skills that I bring. I have organizational skills as far as administration. I was a director of nursing of a nursing home. I do understand the budgetary process and the administrative process. I do understand Robert's Rules of Order. I do understand how to run a meeting. And I think all of these things can bring order but can also bring inclusion and invitation to the citizens of New Holstein.
Excellent, thank you. I see you've also trained your dog to campaign for you, so that's good. I'm teasing. All right, Rich, the same question back to you. What skills and assets would you bring our local government?
Currently, I'm an alderman for the city of New Holstein, 2nd District, Ward 3. As a representative, I listened to the people's concerns and voted accordingly to what the majority wanted. I have gone door to door as well as reviewed several hundred residents' surveys and heard what the taxpayers have wanted. One of our major votes was the police department. I voted every time to keep the New Holstein Police Department as well as write editorials in the paper on my findings. Government is responsible to do what the people want, not tell the people what to do. With some of my background from my job, I have been in the trade for 22 years, 19 years as a journeyman, a foreman, general foreman, supervisor, elected officer for the Executive Committee of Iron Workers Local 8, and a union steward. I have worked with small mom and pop contractors to some of the largest contractors in the world. I have met lobbyists, politicians, people that sat on the board of trade. Outreach is going to be important to bringing something positive to New Holstein as well as with local businesses or people that have good visions of our future. It is also important to listen to what our local businesses have to say and hear how we can improve as a city or the face of the city. So it's important to listen to what we have established.
Great, okay, thank you. So then, Rich, I have a question for you. With many things facing small communities like ours today, which key issues do you think council should primarily focus on?
Listen to what the people want. I know a lot of people talk about fixing our roads and create more transparent government.
Okay, so, and that's a short answer, but that's a good one. I like listening to the people. Mary, same question to you. With many things facing small communities like ours today, which key issues do you think council should primarily focus on?
I think as a community, we have, especially in the middle of this pandemic, we've lost a sense of community and neighborliness and just this whole social issue. So as a council, I would hope that they would want to address ways to bring people back together, bring people out into the street, so to speak. As mayor, I would like to institute programs, I don't even want to call it programs, let's call it parties, where perhaps neighborhoods would sponsor a block party, but instead of being on their block, it would be in one of our fantastic parks. And each neighborhood could sponsor a party every Friday or something, kind of piggyback off what Honeymoon Acres did. Why start small? Because it's always about small, and you start small and you build from there. But if you don't have the basic foundation of people talking to each other, you're really hitting your head against a brick wall. So my goal, and for council, I would expect that those council people would be out in their wards, speaking to their constituents, setting up block captains if they have to, so they can get that flow of communication coming back to City Hall instead of being mandated down from City Hall. We need to get the citizenry included and connected, because we have intelligent, creative, innovative people right here in town. And that's why I say bring it home. Let the people here in town start brainstorming of what we can do. Tecumseh was a major employer here in the area. It brought people to town. A lot of people in town were part of that migration. But now we need to decide, going back to the AA lawn or the lawn engines, whatever, how did that start? It started small. It started with a small group of people getting together. Did it happen overnight? No, it didn't happen overnight. Can we change it overnight? No, we can't change it overnight. But I really don't think that we have to depend on outside industry to come here. We have people, we have innovation, we have creators, we have inventors. They're right here in town. We need to come together, decide on a product or a line of products, and see where we can go forward in there. We put all eggs in one basket at one time, and then they left, and the city has been in grief ever since. And it's been multi-layered, and I've been talking to people. Some of them loved working at Tecumseh. They hated the job, they hated the environment, but they loved the people. There was a sense of community there. And I think that's what we really need to work as a council. Those council members have to get out and talk to their constituents. They just can't come with their own opinion of what they think is best in this huge fatherly model role that father knows best and I can take care of you. No, you need to talk to your constituents. You need to get their ideas. They cannot be afraid to talk to you. It's just, this isn't a power game. This is a community building option. Yeah. And don't edit that out.
I don't intend to. I think both of the answers focusing on people, I really think that's great. And I think that's what we have that's uniquely special, but I'm sorry. I'm going to try not to interject. I'm trying not to shake my head and, too much. Okay, so we both answered that one. Mary, I have you first. Do you have any project or idea that you would like to introduce to the city that would better the community?
Well, I kind of touched on it, and that's the idea of block parties being spun, because here in New Holstein, we have some wonderful, wonderful philanthropic organizations, the Optimists, the Kiwanis, the Lions Club, the VFW, going into private organizations like the Knights of Columbus, or, it's like but we're a small community, and we can't just depend on those groups to do the fundraising, to do the work. We can't just depend on True Value and the credit union and these major sponsors. We can't just sit back. And I don't want to insult anybody, because all of those organizations have hard workers, but they don't represent the entire community of the city. And I think we could get better involvement with the city, with the community, with the citizens. Get them excited about being in New Holstein. And one of the things about inviting industry here, okay, there may be a tax base to it, but then we give them tax increment districts. And so it's a frustrating topic. I'm getting off topic. This is where you can edit.
Okay, so
what I'll do, go back to my original thought was getting people involved in the city, in projects that are enjoyable, that will bring people out of their houses, that will get them talking with each other so that we can start the creative juices flowing. And it's not going to happen overnight.
Great. Okay, thank you. Rich, same question to you. Do you have any project or idea that you would like to introduce to the city that would better the community?
Well, from talking to my constituents, a lot of people are not happy about some of these roads. One in general would be fixing the drainage problem on Calumet Drive where it meets Plymouth Street. It costs the city 48 to 50 man hours to clean out the sewer every year from getting clogged with gravel from washout. 5 to 6 times a year it floods. One of the small businesses over there has to pump his loading dock out every time, and sometimes the water backs up into his building. There's a garage next door that's had to take a bunch of stalled vehicles, change all the fluids, and some of them were not repairable where the vehicles got hydrolocked. People should not be scared to drive through our city when it rains or we have major rain. And it costs the city money. It costs these people that wreck their vehicle money. And it doesn't look good for attracting business when they have to fear of some rain and it floods out. And people, it's not good. Plus there's sinkholes there. They keep throwing a blacktop just to kind of patch the problem. But the reality of it is the blacktop or concrete covers the base, and that's what holds weight of the vehicles. If you have a washout, that there's cement trucks that drive down that road and all that stuff, you could have a potential problem It'd be a safety issue. Sinkholes are a big deal. Look at Pennsylvania or even Florida. That it's horrible. I had a personal experience down in Florida at a nuclear facility. They had to rewrite their whole procedure on doing heavy lifts or heavy hauls because of a washout, because one of the divers went through checking the pipe. They seen a crack in one of the pipes. They put their hand out there and there was nothing there. And here we're going to move a 90-ton reactor recirc pump motor down this road with 4 inches of concrete and nothing underneath it. I think that is one of the things we need to do with the community is fix the roads. The neighbors have told me some of the roads by us haven't been touched and they've been here since the 60s. So that's just something that I'd like to do to better our community.
Great, thank you so much. Should I take an alternate route into town? All right, so, okay. So this question is for you first, Rich. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our city?
Right now, as an alderperson, I have made phone calls, emails, gone door to door. Mr. Zagrodnik, former alderperson, and my middle school history teacher had told our class 28 years ago that you need to go door to door and hear what the people want. We need to vote on issues because that is what matters. There is fact, opinion, BS, and political rhetoric, and we need to get to the facts and issues that concern us. Committee of the Whole isn't being utilized by our citizens. It was designed to bring our community or our committees together, and it's a looser set of rules, and it allows for more input from the citizens. During citizens' input of both Committee of the Whole and Common Council, no one should interrupt that person speaking because it's their time and turn to talk. Town hall meetings are important as well. So I think that major issues, we should have more town hall meetings and hear what the people have to say.
Excellent, thank you so much. Mary, the same question to you. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our city?
Well, I concur with Rich, the importance of going door to door, which I did that now with getting signatures for my campaign. I've done it 3 or 4 times. The previous times, of course, were with the police department issue. And that is one of the most valuable ways. But the other way is with the citizen input at the council meetings. The downfall of that is that they're one of the first items on the agenda. And when the agenda is vague, or when the minutes can't be published until after they're approved a month later, it's hard to have citizen input when you don't know what's going on. So my involvement with the community would be to have them be more informed. Even if the minutes aren't approved, they can be posted, they can be available. The agenda can be available. And I would like to see a better recording of the minutes where the discussion is included instead of just who made the motion, who seconded it, and whether or not it passed. Because that just doesn't tell the citizens what's going on and how that decision was made. And maybe there were justified rationale for why the decision was made, but it's not transparent. So I would also have open office hours that anybody can call or come in to the mayor's office. And like I said before, I want to live stream all of the public meetings so that people have the option. We have folks that work 2nd shift, 3rd shift. We have folks that are raising children, raising families. We have folks that are taking care of senior parents, and it's just not possible to make it to a meeting. And if it could be live streamed and people could come back to it when they get home from work or after they put the kids to bed or they've got mom settled, and they can look at the meeting, they can be involved in the information process, then they can contact their council person, their representative, and they can express their opinion. And if it's not being followed through, they have options of directions to take because they have that information. But you can't do that if you don't have the basic information to begin with. I'm sorry, it kind of sounded like a whine, but especially the live streaming of all public meetings.
Thank you. Yeah. In my opinion, I don't think that sounded like a whine. I think it sounded like passion for information, but I'm also an information professional, so. All right. So Mary, this question starts with you. This is hands down my favorite. If you received $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you spend it on and why?
Any way I wanted, absolutely any way I wanted. I would break it down. I would spend a third to a half maybe in fixing our roads. I know I would, I was a volunteer at the local nursing homes. I would take the residents out on what's called a trishaw, where there is a seating bench in the front and the bicyclist is in the back, powering it around town. I didn't volunteer because I couldn't find any smooth roads to take these people on. And on that, it's like a rickshaw. On the trishaw, there's padding on the bench, but it's not substantial padding. And I told the people, well, if you don't have hemorrhoids now, by the time we get home, you will, because these roads just, they're horrible. I mean, they are. I can name a couple streets that I don't even understand how that underground caterpillar that makes a huge hump in the road, how do the plows even plow it? It doesn't make any sense. So a good portion, well, at least a third to a half would go to repairing the roads. And then I also would really emphasize on improving the arts in New Holstein. We have an awesome revitalized auditorium that can seat how many people? And how often does it get used? We should be bringing the arts to New Holstein, and we can become a draw for the local communities also. There's no reason for that great facility to sit empty so many weekends that it does. And that's one of the things that I've done as a business owner with Growe's Guest House. I have sponsored house concerts for the last 7 years. Open to the public, no charge, no admission. So that's a free will donation. I've since moved them down to the community center to be COVID safe, so there can be social distancing. I used to promote them on the marquee at the firehouse, but I would depend a lot on word of mouth and social media. I just think that we need to bring the arts here. I also think the $1 million, I would love to see us become an attraction for the local area with small business, with events, that we can become the Door County of Calumet County. You know, we get people to come. When you get people to come and they get to see what a great city we have, and we get to see the facilities that we have, then through the opportunity of networking, the 6 degrees of separation, whatever you want to call it, somebody knows somebody. And that is an opportunity to highlight the city, advertise the city, and see what we can attract as far as small businesses, as far as entrepreneurs, as far as even small industry. Tecumseh site, can some of that $1 million be used that we can incorporate at the school in their shop class to be making solar panels, even small solar panels that the kids can learn how to power their phones, to get it into a grander scale that we could use the Tecumseh site for a solar field, and we could be supplying some of the electricity to New Holstein. We need to be forward thinking. We can't keep going back and saying, well, you know, we need manufacturing to come, or we need food process. You know, it's like we need to be the Lawsons of New Holstein.
Thank you. Excellent. All right, Rich, if you received $1 million grant to use, did I ask you this already?
No.
Oh, okay, I'm so sorry. So
That's
if
okay.
you received $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you spend it on and why?
If that opportunity arose, being it's still tax dollars, it's the people, I would outreach and encourage people to attend a meeting for their input, or as well as hold a town hall meeting. Social media would be used. As it sits from the responses that I have received, roads and drainage would be a high priority. People should not have to worry about wrecking their vehicle driving through our city. I think safety, but another note though too, I would want to sit down with the Public Works or our city and decide what is the most important thing we should spend that money on. And if it costs the city for maintenance or whatever, we want to eliminate reoccurring cost. That's where I'd put my money first.
Excellent, thank you. And not that anyone cares, but if I had $1 million, I would, no, I would really love to see like little pocket parks along the main drive in any of those little spaces that, you know, maybe where that home is being torn down, just a little pocket park, just a cute little, anyway, but I'm too frivolous with my money. So Rich, this question comes to you first, and this is a little bit more personal. Where are your favorite places to spend time in our city?
Some of my favorite places in New Holstein to go is the Corner Kitchen. I like the food, coffee, socialize. When I was off or whatever, I go hang out. There's a group of guys that hang out in the morning, which it's nice to talk to people of the community. King's Corner, the King Burger is awesome. That's one of my favorites. Empty Glass, they have specials every day and the food's awesome. Twisted Tap has an excellent steak sandwich. The Village Inn, the pizza and ice cream. Sometimes my wife and I will go down there for the summer, get an ice cream or a pizza once in a while. I go to the Altona, the Lions Club has their meeting there, and the food is excellent. I shop at the Piggly Wiggly True Value in Honeymoon Acres. I try to be as local as possible because that is how businesses stay in business. I also enjoy riding my bicycle through the city in the summer, just as I had done when I was a kid.
Great, thank you so much. Mary, and you, where are your favorite places to spend time in our city?
Actually just out in the city. I love walking, I love biking. And when I'm out walking, I love looking at people's gardens, seeing what they're growing, especially if they have food, fruits and vegetables. I just love walking through the city, greeting people. Sometimes they'll stop and talk, sometimes not, but my whole goal is just to break down barriers of being scared or being intimidated or whatever, and just be willing to stop on the sidewalk and have a conversation. I've done that. There's some folks, I would, between the guest house and our house, it's not quite half a mile. So I would either walk it or I'd have my bike with my little burly wagon behind it. And I was doing some remodeling at the guest house, which involved a 3-foot long crowbar, a bright yellow, heavy crowbar. And I would walk by between the houses back and forth, like I'd have it on my shoulder, or I'd have a spade on my shoulder, or in my wagon, I'd have just gardening tools or maintenance tools. And these people were out, they have a dog, and I stopped to talk to the dog, and then they said, yeah, and we're kind of like, every time you go by, you look like you have a murder weapon. I'm like, what? And they said, yeah, I've never seen anybody go back and forth with so many tools like what you have. And so we asked somebody, what is she doing? And then they told us you had a guest house over there. And then it all made sense. But it just was so comical. And that's just the things that it may seem frivolous, but that's the kind of stuff that we need, is to just stop, introduce yourself, talk to people, get to be known. Because once you know, there's the 5 layers of conversation. You can have small talk, and it's just a small talk. But once you earn the trust, you can go a little bit deeper, and then people start sharing, you know, maybe they had a major surgery, or maybe someone in the family was sick and they had to be, and then they'll start, each time you can earn a little bit more trust, you can go a little bit deeper in the conversation. And that's how you find out what their real needs and wants are. But if they don't trust you, and if they don't know you, if you're a stranger, or if you come across as being a dictator type, strong personality, then it's very hard to build trust. And when you don't have trust, you have division. So I just like walking around the city and seeing who will talk to me and think I'm a mass murderer. I just like, what? It just threw me so much. They're like, yeah, we don't know if we want to talk to you because you always have these, you know, Anyway.
I get the, every time I come to work, somebody saw me doing something in my yard over the weekend. I just live in Chilton, in a pretty prolific spot. And I'm always this much worried about, I'm a little embarrassed, like what part did they catch of me going in something in my yard? I'm never dressed well. I'm just out there sweating. So I identify with that. That's funny.
And I have people stop and ask me too, what am I growing in my yard? There's one year when somebody stopped and he said, how did you get such huge tomatoes? And I'm like, we compost and we throw it in our garden. Well, I go down to the city and I get my compost. And I said, oh, I don't get it from there. Nothing personal against the city, but there's a lot of people that use a lot of fertilizer. And then you end up with a lot of flowers on your tomatoes, but not a lot of fruit because there's too much nitrogen going there. So but if you don't stop and talk, you don't learn those things. So my favorite thing is just being out in the community and getting to know, asking questions.
Sure, great, thank you. And so that really covers all of my explicit questions for each of you today. And I always want to provide, other than the introduction, as another opportunity to sort of respond to anything you heard, or if there's anything that I missed and hadn't asked you about that you'd like to use this opportunity to mention. And Mary, I would start with you on that.
Okay. I know that there's some doubt of my ability to fill the role of mayor because I haven't been an alderperson to know exactly how the city works. But I have been coming to meetings now for over a year, perhaps not every single meeting, but I've been made an effort to get there. And I kind of understand how the city works. And that's why I want to run for mayor, because I think the way that the city works is maybe an efficient way, but it's not an inclusive way. And so my goal is to make it much more inclusive, that people know what's going on before it happens and not after the fact.
Great, okay, thank you. And Rich, I'd provide you the same opportunity. Anything that you'd like to respond to, that you'd like to mention that I didn't bring up here?
Yeah, it is government's responsibility to do what the people want. I understand that if there's more than one choice, that it will not make everyone happy. However, it is important to hear what the majority wants. As an alderperson, I've done this. As a mayor, I will continue to do this. I still believe that major decisions that affect the citizens, the person that pays the bill, whether if you're a homeowner or renting, it's still, you're a citizen. You live here. That decision should go to the taxpayer or the citizen itself. Case in point, on May 19th, 2021, the action agenda item was Resolution 1479, the abolishment of the New Holstein Police Department during Police Appreciation Week. I moved motion and it was seconded to have a referendum on it. It got rejected. I still feel it should have been the taxpayer, but then the motion was made and seconded on the abolishment of the New Holstein Police Department. I voted to keep it based on hundreds of people who call, email, and read their survey. When it's time to make a decision, it's what the majority wants. If mayor, I will continue to do that. And the mayor is in charge of the agenda and action items, and that's what I'm about. I want to do what the people want.
Great, thank you so much. I want to say the same thing that I said, kind of in the last round of doing these, and that is that I just genuinely and deeply am, I'm grateful that you provide us, the library, this opportunity. I'm so thankful for candidates I just really believe in public service, which is why I do it. And I believe it's difficult. And like, I think, you mentioned you don't always make everybody happy. And so just trying at it is, to me, just like the most valuable thing. I am grateful to you guys and in awe of you for putting your names in the ring for this. And I thank you for your time just to come here and provide people with the information. I could feel that you're both about people, and that's what public service is. You know what I mean? That's like what we're here to do, is serve our community, try to make it better, whether that's in big, actions or in tiny little incremental change over time. And so I'm thrilled. I think we have, 3 candidates on the ballot, and the city is going to continue to look great and move forward because we have people who are so passionate and care. And I'm really excited about that. So good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.